maybe in law enforcement, maybe in policy making, the role that they are playing today is absolutely critical.
Of others.
All of us in school need to imbibe and recognize, because this is not something which you can take casually, because every impact of the environment, may it be, what happens to our forests, what happens to our rivers, what happens, it's going to affect your life when you come out of Mayo. I can tell you for the people who live in Delhi, I know Mayo is facing a huge acute water shortage. I can tell you Delhi is facing an acute water shortage. Rivers in India today are polluted to the extent that they are poisonous. So, this is the kind of stuff which has happened, the abuse, the neglect that we have let happen in the last 40, 50 years, which is now being corrected. And it is being corrected. I can give you statistics and numbers and studies which have shown that we've made huge strides. Despite all the criticism that we levy onto ourselves and onto our politicians, we have made huge strides in actually saving parts of the environment, in actually resuscitating part of our environment. And that's something I think all students in school need to learn at this stage, at this age. And that will come really out of a love for nature, or taking the opportunity when you get a chance to go for treks or for outdoor activities, because that's when you start really respecting it. Coming to the issue of the entire sort of social fabric of India and the challenges we have in India today on the social side. I think for me personally, when having lived overseas for so many years, one tends to sort of get used to a way of life that goes on over there. And the thing which is most glaring in our country today is the level of corruption that exists, and not just the level of corruption that exists, it is the level of tolerance that people have to corruption. I think that is something which, as products of schools, or public schools, or schools like Mayo, we owe it to our society to be courageous, to have values which can fight these things. And I'll talk a little more about that. It's very easy today to say that, look, sab karte hain, it should be done. Or, so and so did it for 10 years, they got away with it. Or so many people have made X amount of money by indulging in corruption. I think that's where character stands out. That's where people need to take a stand saying, what matters more to you? Does it matter more to you really? And this is a very important question which you should be asking yourself from here today. Does it matter for you to have a fatter bank balance or to have a better conscience about what you're doing for your country? And I think that's where is the thin dividing line on the way many of our senior bureaucrats, many of our leading politicians are actually making a choice in being effective or being destructive. And with due respect, one of my close friends here is part of the senior part of the bureaucracy. We have really truly fantastic people in the bureaucracy who are making such a big difference and who are taking a stand today on the way they will deal with the issue of corruption. They stand by it. They have characters which are strong. They have will, conviction, and the means and the support to do that. And I think that is something which a place like Mayo, must stand for, must continue to imbibe. All of us must take from here things beyond degrees and experiences and a lot of fun. Which then brings me to the issue of what exactly is it that, how relevant is an education in Mayo today in the India that we are in. I happen to have the benefit of speaking to some of the boys today over lunch, or even meeting some of the boys on the sports field, and I must say it was truly delightful. And it's very good. I find every batch that comes back after 20 years, or people who come back saying during our time it was like this and now it's different. I think every time is a good time. So hats off to all of you. I think all of you are doing a great job. You're keeping the flag of Mayo running high, and all of you are ambitious. I did get a sense from all of you that there is a sense of what you want to do. The people are clear about the sort of career choices they'd like to make, which is great. I think that is a good thing. You probably have the right kind of career counseling. But the one question that still eludes me here is that what is it that all of us would do when we are faced, all of us will be included, when we are truly faced with tough moral choices, when we are faced with tough choices related to character, relating to discipline. Because the strength of a good education is not during good times, because good times, everyone can package themselves well, and show up as you say, everyone rises with a rising tide. But during a tough time, when you have to make a tough call, and I can tell you, I've been in many such situations when you really have to make a call between profit making versus environmental decision, or you have to make a decision between, potentially getting into a partnership with somebody who may have a corrupt background, or walking away from actually making a good career choice because you walk away from a good investment opportunity. I think there I would implore all of you, and I'm sure that the school and its our staff are working hard on this. That issues like discipline, issues like respect for authority, which are just spoken words when we are in school. I remember we used to always always say what exactly is meant by respect for authority. I think it's a very big thing. I think it's a very, very big thing. Today, half the problems we have in our country is because people do not respect authority. There is a reason authority is appointed where it is. Either they are competent or they are deserving, but there is a reason they are. The fact that authority themselves may be sometimes wavering is no justification for people not to respect authority. So I would say that as you go into the world in the years coming, the one thing which we learned in Mayo, which has always helped me in good stead, is respect authority. You can challenge issues. You should have the courage to challenge issues in the right manner, in the right forum, and question yourself on the wisdom of challenging something. But don't ever question authority in a manner where you are actually, being more destructive than actually, allowing authority to do its role. The second thing is to do with discipline, and discipline is to do not just with about behavior, or about the way you carry yourself, but it's actually to do with the way you run your life, the way you run your personal life, your attitude towards health, your attitude towards your friends, your attitude towards your spouses, your discipline towards time management, your discipline towards the way you dress yourself, your discipline towards the way you carry yourself, your language skills, your communication skills, the way you come across to elders. I mean, these are, again, I must emphasize, these are things which we do pick up in Mayo. We do pick up in Mayo. I think, during my time, there was probably never an occasion I can think of where, regardless of whoever the teacher was, we would not put our hands behind our back and wish them when they were passing out. We would never ever have either the courage or the indiscipline not to wish the teacher a good evening or a good morning, and with respect, and with genuine respect. Because what mattered was, it did not matter whether you liked the person or you didn't like the person, or whether a good teacher or a better teacher or a great sportsman or not. What mattered was that you had to show them respect. So that's when you will get the best out of a good teacher. So I want to go back to this issue of discipline in the context of the India that we are living in. I think many of our discipline values that we pick up in Mayo are character building elements which will always help us later in life. I mean, whether you will have a degree from Harvard, or whether you will be an engineer from IIT, or whether you will be a doctor from whichever famous institution, it will not matter half as much if you have the discipline also to carry that education, to carry that degree, to carry that knowledge, and carry it with the discipline that you need to run it with. So coming back to the issue of what exactly is it that Mayo is doing has done for all of us, is doing for you. I think it's to do with privilege. I think it's to do with the fact that we all have had the benefit of a very privileged education, the benefit of a very privileged set of teachers, the benefit of a very privileged set of facilities. So use them. Use them. Whether it is learning a hobby, whether it is learning a sport, whether it is just learning a skill, which could be, computers or a musical instrument or a language, grab their opportunity. Believe me, when you're out of this place, you're going to get sucked into so many things, both, with age, with events in your life, where you will not have this opportunity again. And the skills that you pick up here, I've mentioned some of them, will always be a weapon for you in the next 50 years of your life. So, with that set of messages, I would like to sort of end my speech and open it to any kind of a question and answer also from the staff. It's a small story about two young boys went to an old man who was a wise old man, and they said, this wise old man really thinks a lot about himself, and we're going to trick him and make him look like a fool. And how we're going to do that is by asking him a question for which he really will not be able to answer. And so they went to him with a little butterfly in their hand. They caught a little butterfly and they put them between their hands. And they went to the old man and said, "Dear wise old man, there is a butterfly in our hand. You have to tell us whether it is dead or alive." And their whole sort of game plan was that if he said, "Look, the butterfly is alive," they would just crush it and say, "See, you don't know what you're talking about, it's dead. And if he says, look, it's dead, they would let it go and it would fly away. But in either case, they were sort of challenging authority, or they were challenging the person's wisdom. And the old man thought for a minute and he realized what these young boys are doing. And he said to them, he says, dear boys, he says, the answer to your question lies in your own hands. And that's the message I want to leave to you, that today as you are in a very privileged position of being in Mayo, what you do with your education at Mayo, what you do with your years at Mayo, it's really in your own hands. Respect your teachers, be disciplined about things, grab opportunities. These are all things which will help you very, very strongly in life later. You will be a risk. You will not be a risk-averse person. You will be a courageous person. You will have good character, and you will have the discipline to take you into far lengths in life. Thank you very much. I'd be open to any kind of questions. I know I try to make my talk general, but feel free to ask me questions on any of the topics that I've covered. Somebody from the football team can ask me a question. I play football with them tonight. Yeah, there's a question there.
So with educational empowerment coming in, there's more education in the rural areas. So labor costs and wages are rising high. So in future years, the cost will be so high that it will meet the West's prices. So what will happen in that case?
Okay, that's a very interesting and a very thought-provoking question. So let me answer that because you obviously are a bright kid. Let me give you a straight answer on that. See, India's wage advantage is a much debated topic. But the truth is, India's wage advantages today so far have largely been confined to the urban India part. So if you look at the entire sort of call center industry, look at the entire software development industry, look at the entire back office industry, that's largely been developed in India in tier 1 and tier 2 cities or satellite cities. It has actually not fit into rural India. And the reason for that, the failure of employability in rural India has been that we have not been able to take vocational studies into rural India. And this thing that you raised, maybe with a very learned